Hey, what is going on, guys? RvzStealth here, and in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at Ivern right now in patch 6.22 and talk about why this champion has the highest win rate for any jungler this patch. He went from being one of the crappiest junglers in 6.21, and then with a lot of changes that came to 6.22, he has become one of the best junglers now. So in this video, we're gonna go over like the build, the runes, the masteries that you should take on Ivern. We'll do some tips at the end, and then first off, I'm just gonna go over why he is stronger this patch. So with that being said, let's get into the video. Alright, so the first reason to why Ivern got stronger this patch is the addition to Redemption. Redemption is just such a cost-efficient item right now, and it synergizes really well on Ivern, especially because he does benefit really well from that plus 10% on the heals and shields. And because Ivern, you really don't need to do damage, or you don't need to build damage on him to be effective, you can go for these more supportive builds like building the Athenes, the Redemption, and because both those items, the Athenes and Redemption, are so cost efficient, you just get a really good early to mid game power spike, and your shield just does so much in team fights. Your shield is on a 4.4 second cooldown once you get 45% CDR, and once you do have your core items, it's going to be giving like your teammates massive shields, and the shield does last for 2 seconds, so technically your shield is on like a 2.4 second cooldown, and that's going to be amplified by your items. So that is the first reason to why Ivern is really strong this patch. Alright, so the second reason is because Smite now gives you health back in the jungle. So last patch, in patch 6.21, Smite did not give you health back when you smited camps. It only gave you the health back when you smited red buff. So that meant that Ivern did fall pretty low in the jungle, and it did minimize like his ganking potential in the early game. He would fall like super low and he would have to go back, but now he can definitely look for a lot more ganks in the early game because he will be getting that health back from the smite now. A little more obvious one here is that Ivern actually did get buffs in 6.22, so he did get a buff to his ultimate. The health got increased on Daisy, and then his Q's cooldown, it did get decreased as well, and then his ultimate, it did get a little bit of a bug fix or something to where it does target the champion better now or something. I'm not completely sure what that change was, but overall he did get some really good buffs this patch. Having the ability to one-shot camps is even stronger this patch with the addition to the new Raptors and Krugs. A lot of junglers this patch find it really hard to clear out those camps, especially like the single target damage junglers. So someone like Nunu is going to take a really long time to clear out those Raptors, but because Ivern can just one-shot them with his passive and with Smite, it just allows him to clear the jungle super fast and just look for ganks whenever he is done his clear. Another reason to why he got stronger is because of the addition to the new mastery Greenfather's Gift. If you guys don't know what this new mastery does, whenever you are standing in a brush, whenever you leave the brush, or if you auto attack an enemy champion when you're in the brush, your next auto attack or your next spell is going to deal 3% of the target's maximum health. So this is really strong because it synergizes great with Ivern. When you are ganking with him, you can plant down a bush, and then once you leave that bush, or once you auto attack in the bush, your next auto is going to deal quite a bit of damage. So make sure you're taking advantage of that when you are ganking with him and when it does reach mid to late game team fights. And lastly, people are actually just understanding how to play the champion now. I think at first, a lot of people were maxing Q first instead of E, but people figured out that E max is definitely the way to go now. And also, like whenever a new champion comes out, they're gonna have a pretty crappy win rate and they're not going to be very strong. But because a lot of people have practiced him now and people are starting to get the hang of him, he is becoming a stronger pick for sure. Alright, so let's move on to the build now for Ivern. There are definitely a lot of builds going on right now, and there's not really like a set in stone best build right now, but the build that I think is the best is the one I'm going to show you here on screen. So this is the one that I'm going, and it's the one that a lot of other Iverns are also going. So you want to rush an Athenes on Ivern. You only want to buy the Hunter's Talisman in the early game. Don't even buy your jungle item until like the very end of the game, because you really don't don't need it. Getting the Athenes and then after Athenes getting Redemption is just really strong on Ivern. Those items are so cost efficient, and because you can rush them really quickly, it does give him a great early to mid game power spike. Now, after you do go Athenes and Redemption, after that, if my team is lacking damage, then I will get a Rylai's. If my team has a lot of damage though, and they don't really need any, then I'll go with Guardian Angel after I finish my Redemption. It really just does depend like on the situation. I think that Athenes and Redemption are like core items on him. You should go those items every single game, but then after that, you can either transition into tank or you can go a little bit of damage. Alright, so if we move on to the runes now here for Ivern, this is the page that most people are taking on him right now, and it is the page that the best Ivern NA is taking according to op.gg. I will link his op.gg down in the description if you do want to check it out. But first off here, he is taking the movement speed quints, he's going the health per level seals, he's taking a little bit of cooldown per level glyphs, as well as a little bit of magic resist per level glyphs, and then he is taking the attack speed marks. So the reason why you want to take the movement speed quints on Ivern is because you don't need the ability power as him to clear out the jungle. You want the movement speed quints to be able to move around the map really quickly so you can apply your passive to multiple camps and just get a really fast clear done. It also allows you to just gank a lot faster and just move around the map really fast, so you really don't need the AP quints on him. And now if we take a look at the mastery page here for Ivern, this one is also very unique. This champion is just such a unique champion, which is why I think he's just super fun to play, and he's just such a interesting champion in my opinion. No other jungler is going to take this mastery page, at least I'm pretty sure. So the keystone mastery you want to take is the Wind Speaker's Blessing. This will just allow your shield to be insane in those mid to late game team fights. The fact that you're going Wind Speakers as well as Redemption and Athenes means that you're going to just have an insane shield and be really strong at team fighting. Now the other mastery here that you want to take for sure is the Green Father's Gift. Like I touched on earlier, this just synergizes really well with Ivern's bushes, so that's also a one you do want to make sure you take. And then as for everything else here, it's pretty self-explanatory. And last but not least, let's go over some tips now here for Ivern in the jungle. Now I will put this tip in action here in the background gameplay, but basically what this tip is a level 1 cheese invade on Ivern. So what you want to do is you want to put your passive down on your buff, and then after you do that, look to go for an invade right away. This is really effective on Ivern because what you do is you throw your Q over to the enemy's buff, you put your passive on it, and then you smite it away. Now this is really good because it's super fast. It's not really that risky. If you do get a ward down and you do know where the enemy is starting, then it's going to be very easy for you to pull that invade off. Now after you do go for that invade, and for example, if you're on blue side here like I am and you invade the enemy's red buff, then look to go for a level 2 cheese gank right after you do that. I did this here and you guys will see this in the background gameplay, and I ended up burning the enemy's flash. So this is just a really effective strategy. It's not going to work every single game, and it's not going to work against people who know how Ivern works, but because Ivern isn't played a whole lot yet and people really don't know like what this champion does, you will be able to pull this off a lot of the time when you play him. Also, be sure to use Ivern's Q as an escape tool if you do find yourself in a sticky situation. It's kind of like a Lee Sin Q in the sense that you can use it on camps to escape. So for example, if you're playing on blue side and you're invading the enemy's top side and you're going for their red buff, if Rift Herald has spawned, then you can use that on Rift Herald to just go for an escape and just get out if the enemy jungler does spot you or if the enemy is collapsing on you. You can also use this, for example, if you're on red side and you are invading the enemy's red buff, you can use it over the dragon pit to escape if you need to. The next tip is to be sure to use Daisy immediately when a fight starts and don't wait to use it. When I first started playing Ivern, when I played my first few games on him, I found that I was always holding my ultimate too long and I just wasn't using it until like in the middle of a team fight I would use it, but there's really no reason to not use Ivern's ult ultimate as soon as a fight starts, it's on a very short cooldown, so by the time the next fight comes up, it's going to be up again. It's on like an 80-second cooldown, somewhere around there at rank 1, and then it gets even shorter as you level it up. So don't be hesitant to use his ultimate. If you do think that a fight is going to start, or if a fight has started, then just throw your ultimate down with Ivern. Now my next tip is to not forget to plant down a bush when you are ganking with Ivern. Now there's two reasons to why you want to do this. Number one is if you are standing in a bush, then you will get a ranged auto attack, so this will allow you to deal a little bit more damage when you are ganking. And number two, when you are in a bush, it will activate the Green Father's Gift Mastery, so this will allow you to deal quite a bit more damage when you are ganking. The Green Father's Gift, if you're standing in a bush, your next ability or attack will deal 3% of your target's current health, so that's really good on Ivern, and just make sure you are doing that when you go for ganks with him. Another tip for when you're ganking as Ivern is to put your shield on whoever is closest to the enemy champion instead of putting it on like whoever's lower. Now the reason for this is because your shield, when it does proc or when it does pop, it will grant that slow. So you want to be putting that on the champion that is like right up next to the enemy champion. So say for example, you're ganking and you're a little bit further away from your teammate, but you're playing with a Yasuo and he's like right on top of the enemy champion. Even if that Yasuo is full HP, put that shield on him because it will get that slow and it will allow you to pick up the kill a lot easier. And then when you are ganking as well, make sure you do try to save your Q until the enemy has been slowed with your E. Now if you are ganking and the enemy is pretty far away and you're not going to be able to get that slow off with your E, then obviously you can start with a Q and just use that right away. But if the enemy is pushed pretty far out and you're going to be able to get that slow off, just wait for the slow to proc from your E and then throw your Q out, because it's going to maximize the potential for you to hit that Q when you do gank. Another pretty interesting tip here is when you are taking Dragon or Baron, plant your bushes around it so that if the enemies don't have a ward in the pit, they won't be able to know how much HP the Dragon or the Baron is on. Now you do want to make sure you have a pink ward down and make sure it's not warded, because if it is warded, then they will be able to see the HP of it. But if it's not warded and you do place those bushes down, they won't be able to see the health on the objective, and that just means that they're either gonna, number one, have to walk into the bush to see how much HP it is, and then you're probably just going to be able to kill them, or number two, they're just going to have to surrender it and you're going to get a very free Dragon or Baron. So that is going to be all for this video, guys. If you are playing Ivern a lot recently, or if you do know the champion pretty well, then be sure to leave some other tips down in the comments below, because I probably did miss a few. But with that being said, guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you guys have not already, and I will see you in my next video.